Hello, hello. Welcome to SessionWell, first podcast of 2019. Yep. Holy crap. Anyways, my name is Adam Luke.
I'm Judy N.
We have the amazing Ashley Siemens with us. And if you are new to SessionWell, what this is actually a community that we're building for professionals, whether you're licensed or you're pre-licensed, or whether you're an average person just looking for some of the psychology interventions we use as counselors in session, and also information that comes to us through our industry. So tonight we have a really cool one we're going to be talking about. It's going to be called Empty on Empathy. Ashley named it, and I can't wait to talk about it because it's something that, as professionals and as people, we do not talk about this topic enough.
Yep. So we're going to introduce Ashley. Well, she's going to introduce herself and then tell us a little bit about why you chose this topic.
Well, I'm Ashley, and I'm an associate marriage and family therapist. I chose this topic because as I was trying to find any other topic, this one kind of kept rising to the surface. And I had this thought probably last night as I was thinking about what I was going to talk about, so very, down to the wire, that how can I expect my clients to come in every day and expect them to talk about the things that they don't want to talk about if I'm not willing to do the same. And so when therapists lack empathy, me personally, when I lack empathy with my clients, I'm not going to shy away from it, that it does happen, and that it has been happening recently, I guess, and that I have been working through it, been working with my supervisor and also my own personal therapist to understand how, as a therapist, I guess my expectation was to be this omniscient Zen type therapist
right.
that never struggled with having empathy for people, but there have been, I guess, recurrent themes and different characteristics of people that come in to my office or sit, on the couch that I struggle to have empathy for at times. And so I don't feel like it is talked enough. I don't feel like I have talked about it enough with people, and so maybe I'm not the only one that has struggled with it. So
not at all.
No, not at all.
So I thought I would shoot it back to them and make it public.
So, something we've talked about before on the podcast, and for those watching on the videos, we love to talk to our guests and find out what are we going to talk about. And it was a group text, and I have to admit, when I saw it come through and I read it, I was like, damn it. I don't know if that's the one I want to work with. How about something that makes me sound more badass? But it's the truth. Mm-hmm. And the fact that, if anything, what we've tried to create, Judy and I, is the idea that therapists aren't perfect. We are people, and we feel all the emotions everyone else feels, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And so whether we're talking in the context of working with a client in therapy, or you're talking about the context of working with a coworker at work, or even your spouse, empathy is something that covers everything.
Sure.
In every aspect of every relationship you have, your lack of empathy and really greatly affects what type of relationship you either experience or give to someone.
Right. And I think that as therapists, there's a little bit more pressure for us because we're expected to ooze empathy. We tell clients all the time, we create a safe space for you. We're non-judgmental. We have all this compassion and empathy for people. But the same thing with Adam was saying, we're human and we have our own stuff that comes up. And there are just some people that it's really hard to be empathetic for. Mm-hmm. And so I think that Ashley's right in saying that it is kind of a topic that not a lot of us talk about. Because I think that makes us feel yucky as therapists, am I not doing my job right? Is something about me, what is it that makes me kind of empty on the things that we're taught we are supposed to naturally have for people? So you had mentioned that there was some recurring themes or characteristics.
Sure. I was noticing just and the thing that came to my mind, the way to describe it is just in a piece of music, like opera, classical music, you're going to have different movements, and then you're also going to have themes that come along with characters. And when I was thinking about the different clients that I have had over the years, or it's not even just clients, there have been supervisors, there have been bosses that have, and there's a reason that I quote quoted #triggered. Well, we might get into that later. There's just a little bit of cringing that happens with that. But that have affected me negatively, and I realize that I'm having a reaction that is very unempathic, if we can use that word. That they have all had a certain theme or characteristic, and that countertransference is not something for me to shy away from, but in a contained environment with my supervisor or with my personal therapist, something that I can work on and draw from to become a better therapist. I know that not every therapist or associate or trainee is not going to have the luxury of transferring or referring out clients who might be somewhat offensive, you might have a problem with. And so when working with the particular clients that will trigger you, or that you experience countertransference with, or represent the certain themes that you are dealing with in your own personal life, like what to do with those, because I think they present opportunities if you are brave and if you're taking your own advice as a clinician and the things that you're telling your clients to do, to face them, and that life is triggering and life is hard. And I tell my clients that all the time, because I think triggering has become this word, like, oh no, well then don't do it because you're triggered. No, life is triggering. I don't know if that needs to be said, but life is triggering, and it's our job, it's your job, it's everyone's job to figure out how to live life. And I think us as therapists also, if we're encouraging people to confront their triggers, to adopt new ways of functioning and new ways of living, the same thing happens when we're presented with a client that #triggers us.
So what I'm hearing you is really about, and I think you're nailing a strong point here that we really need to focus on, is it's overcoming your triggers and not being directed by your triggers.
Right.
Sure. Not being reactive by them as well.
Yeah, because for a lot of, like what you're talking about, some people can actually prevent themselves from having positive experiences because a trigger presents itself. Yeah. Now, I'm also hearing the clinical context of, like, have your own therapy, work through this issue. Sure. What's triggering you and how that is, but it's not that my whole life is going to be dictated on bouncing off of these triggers or like avoiding. A pinball. And that's the thing, they actually lose the opportunity to have these joy-filled moments in life because, oh no, that triggers me.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Or I don't feel I'm not connecting with our clients, or something about you, I don't know, like rubs me the wrong way, or it's like it's frustrating and it's really hard. Because, like, not, we have, like, our version of, like, what an ideal client is, I guess. But I'm sure that there have been times where we've been clients to our own therapists that we've probably, frustrated them as well. Yes. Like, poor my therapist, my gosh, I'm sorry. And so it's like, how do we, like, what do we do as clinicians when we are empty on that? Like, have you discovered something for yourself, or heard any really good advice from your supervisors?
Well, I mean, I sent my therapist back to therapy because of the stuff that I brought into the room.
Oh, okay.
And she was the one that years later, and it was in my personal life that I was lacking empathy for something that I knew cognitively I should be very empathic towards, but it created a moment for me, and it was the first time, and I've been, like, 6 years into my own personal therapy with the same therapist, where I was able to see that my reason for lacking empathy for what this other important person in my life was experiencing is because I didn't have it as a kid. And so it happened to come across to me as complaining, endless complaining. And for me, as a child, that wasn't met with any sort of, that didn't get you anywhere. That was just noise. Find a better way to solve the problem. But as a kid, that's how you express and how you get to tell your parents that, something is wrong. But for me, I was, well, this is life, get over it, But that wasn't appropriate, I guess, in the context. So I got to work with my therapist, and she's like, well, you didn't have that sort of response when you were hurt or when you needed comfort or when you needed that from an adult, from someone who's supposed to give you comfort and care. So what you need to do is have empathy for yourself and what you're feeling, that it's really difficult for you to express that empathy for someone else, to give them what you never got as a kid, and like took me really back into a very uncomfortable child place. But now I'm able to identify, and now I'm able to understand what's happening in the room and why, you know, in the past certain clients didn't work out, certain authoritative bosses and supervisors didn't work out, because they all, you know, like I talked about before, they all had this similar theme of someone that you know was triggering to me, and that was my own countertransference. So I think it's just been, I've been able to understand why, or when I lack empathy, when I'm not able to feel with that person, whatever their pain may be, it's generally associated with this one theme for me. And
it's amazing when people emotionally didn't create a space for us when we were growing up and developing. How much then therapy is the process of us creating that space for ourselves, and then allowing ourselves to grow up in that area that wasn't fulfilled from the beginning. So it is interesting, especially I couldn't help but hear a little bit of myself and what you were talking about, of the fact that yes, when we look at when we aren't willing to give empathy, sometimes that is ourselves snapping back to that system of ago, and how we experienced it. And then the real mind screw here is the fact that we never wanted to present that to someone else, but it's so easy for us to go and fill that space. So if I grew up in that authoritarian environment, all of a sudden I become the monster I didn't want in that side.
And I swore I wouldn't be.
It's hysterical, and it's
poetic almost.
It is, because we have to sort of look back and be like, wow, like it gives us actually empathy for things that we've experienced, not a justification for what we've experienced. But you go, wow.
That must have been hard for that little girl who was raped. That must have been hard. And in that moment, then I can see, yes, that, like, now I can do it without, you know, turning into a puddle. But yes, that was hard. I can have empathy. I can realize that might have been how this other person who's displaying their pain in a very unlovable way, or in a very difficult way for me to receive, but it helps me see past their behavior and how they're acting and how they're representing themselves and get to the pain, because that's what I had been missing.
Right. And I think it's, I can't remember which supervisor it is, but I think it might be Robin. I'm not sure. It could be Susan too. But I know that sometimes... Unlovely? Is it the what?
The Unlovelies. Like, find something lovely.
Yes.
But I was going to say
is it Robin?
Yes.
Okay, it's Robin. So Robin Felix, shout out to you. But yes, whenever we have supervision and we are, you know, voicing our frustrations with certain, like, cases, her first thing she does in her little gentle way is just, like, find something lovely about them. Name one lovely thing. And we're just like, you know, sometimes it's hard.
Yeah, sometimes it's really hard.
You know, but
especially when they represent someone who's hurt you in the past. Like, there's nothing lovable about
them. Well, then there's that subconscious thing of, I don't want to find something lovely about them.
Or they're unsafe.
They're unsafe. I'm pissed off. I don't want to find something that endears them to me, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, that's why they talk about countertransference, because I, like, the kind of what Ashley's saying, like, I do tend to do the thing, too, where if I find a client that I just am not connecting with because it's my own frustrations with them, or, like, I'm irritated, or I'm just, like, I don't find you that lovable, it does help soften my heart a little bit when I can just look at them and go, okay, what little boy or what little girl is actually screaming for, you know, help, or attention, because they have attention or love. Like, where is that pain coming from? Like, where is the unlovable stemming from? And I think that has, like, softened me a little bit. But that took a really long time to figure that out, because it's why are you being an ass? Like, you know, sometimes I'm not nice to you. Like, as a therapist, sometimes they're not nice to us. And so it's just like, I'm trying to help you here. But they don't not all the time want us to help them, but they are showing up. So it is, they do. They just don't know how to like ask for it.
And that goes back to find something that you can appreciate about them, or that's lovely about them.
And that's ongoing.
It's
not just like a one-time thing. It's ongoing.
It's not static.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's you keep finding something, and it will change lovable about the person, because you know what was lovable about them last week may not do it for you this week.
Right.
You have to find something new
Yeah.
that will help you see that individual as not a representation of your own pain, but as a as a separate individual experiencing their own.
And we don't want anybody that's out there who's like never been in therapy to listen to this and be like, oh my gosh, I have to be the perfect client.
Oh God, that was my fear.
Please don't.
So like that's like not what we're conveying at all. We're kind of just we're talking about the fact that like we're also human, and so you know, just like every relationship out there, like we can't connect perfectly with every single person.
Yeah.
But we want to be there. For any person that comes through our office, it's just trying to figure out what do we personally have to work through to kind of get through our own countertransference of like being irritated or frustrated.
And then the other thing is, if you do try to fake it till you make it, or be this person that's not authentic in the session.
Like a yes client.
Let me just put this out in the interwebs. Your therapist will know.
Yes.
And it's not, hopefully you have a professional therapist and then won't be like, I know you're a fraud. It's more of, you're really cheating yourself at that time.
Right.
Because, one of the gentlemen I work with now in substance abuse, Hugo, he had a great saying that really hit me, which was, as a therapist, or he's a social worker, he goes, my job is not to be a detective. So if a person comes in and is just essentially lying or being something that's not real, it's not necessarily his job to be like, let me question everything you're telling me. So again, it's really losing your investment in your time, because the therapist should walk alongside of you, but if what you're saying is not true, it's not going to exist. But coming back to that empathy side, so how do you find it when it's almost impossible to find?
I don't know yet. The empathy for, I think I have always found something. Even if it is, that sounds terrible. Even if it is, I know this is something that I should do. I want to be the kind of person that has empathy for this individual. I don't want to be a therapist I don't want to be a type of person that can't find something lovely, something lovable in anyone. And I don't want to carry the pain or the reactivity to my own past and put that on other people. So I think it's also, I think I might switch that into a self-betterment type. I'm not going to let this person convince me that I'm not a good therapist.
No, that's a big thing.
Like, I'm going to use this, and if this is the challenge, then I'm going to find something lovable, because I do believe that there is something lovable about everybody, and that person came to therapy to at least express pain, whether or not they're motivated in the long run or they'll get to their goals, or if I'm the right person for them, that I can at least meet them where they're at for the moment that they see me, and give my best, present my best, regardless of who they remind me of.
And so what's hysterical is a lot of people won't see that as an intervention. So what I heard from you is the fact that it's a huge intervention. Psychodynamically, a lot of times when an individual comes in and you find yourself with very little empathy for this person, psychodynamically they're kind of sharing that space with you of maybe the hopelessness, the internal character defects that they might have.
This is what they've been experiencing with everybody else in their lives.
And so they're actually inviting you into a space, and the only way that they know how. And if we all be honest with ourselves, we have all had behaviors in our life that were not good and were not healthy for us. And we use them anyways, right?
Yeah,
I was like, I should probably not do that right now, but I am.
Yes.
Like, so that again is, maybe they are coming into this space within the clinical context and want to build rapport in their therapeutic relationship and work through things. But the only way they can do it is through how they have experienced the world before.
Yep.
And pull off your clinical cap, put it on, whatever you want. That is how we experience people. So especially, I appreciated your point when I was just sort of thinking about back to colleagues I used to work with that I did not enjoy. Right? So before I was ever a therapist, as a mechanic or whatnot, you experience people that you will have very little empathy for as well, right? It's one of those things where if you ever have the moment where you see your coworker spill the pot of coffee on them and you giggle, you might want to think about your empathy, right? Like, how much empathy and care do I have for this person? But it does change your whole intellectual concept when you start realizing, like, okay, I still only have to experience this person for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Right? Or the fact of, like, it must be extremely challenging to be that person outside of work.
Sure. Or what does it mean about me that, like, why is this getting to me? Yeah. Why is this person? Why is this behavior? What does it mean about me? Where is there an issue in me that I'm letting this person affect me so much?
I have a question. Do you ever feel like, have you ever had, either both of you, do you ever think your clients have ever felt your lack of empathy?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
What does that look like? Like, how do you know that?
I've been fired by clients. They didn't actually, for those clients, they no called, no showed, never came back. And I'm not willing to take the entire blame for that because they had a part in that as well. But I also think, I also know that there are specific clients that I didn't really mind. That they didn't come back, if I can be completely frank and honest, because I didn't feel like we were moving. I didn't feel like they were motivated. I didn't get them. I didn't, whether that be my own naivete, whether that be my own, lack of skill, that I wasn't able to meet them where they were at. But I still think of them weirdly. That, like, if I only knew right? then what I know now.
Right.
And then continuing to have empathy for the learning process that it is to be a therapist. But I'm getting better at, I think this is why I chose this topic, is because I am in this process right now with identifying if I have a lack of empathy for clients, catching it earlier before they leave my office, before they decide that I'm not the therapist for them, what I can do and what I need to work on.
Do you have any, like, can you feel it in you? Like, when it's starting to happen? Like, do you have any, like, warning signs or...
Oh, yeah. Well, Susan always tells... Our supervisor, she always tells me, when Ashley gets fiery or gets, like, feisty. And there's been a couple times that people are like, well, you're just a force of nature, and, like, I don't really know if that's a compliment. It always kind of seems a bit...
Because hurricanes destroy houses.
Explosive, maybe. I like to,
but I don't see that as
myself
like...
that I feel like passionate is maybe
the
word
I would say you're more passionate.
that they meant to use. But I know when I start to get frustrated or irritated because I realize that I'm taking it personally, that what I'm making it mean... We can go a little CBT there. What am I making that situation mean about me is that I'm inefficient, that the fact that they aren't progressing, the fact that they are not getting better, the fact that they aren't getting the, precious gem that I have been giving to them in every session, like, is a reflection on me as a therapist and not, not in the space that I've given them.
When you drop that, like, that nugget of truth, and you're like, oh, here's fire, boom, and they're like,
I should be
that's
crap.
And they just swat it away.
And they're like, don't even acknowledge it.
And you're like,
it's really powerful.
Like,
let's go, and so you say it again, and they still don't get it. But
they don't acknowledge.
Yeah, and I do think, I'm almost positive, I think every therapist at some point or another has thought, okay, what is wrong with me? Like, am I not doing enough? Like, am I inefficient? Am I not, am I not good enough? Like, am I not doing it right?
Sure.
Because I think that we all have these goals we want for clients, and we like have this like end that we want to see them reach.
Yeah.
And when they're not progressing, like in the way maybe that we want them to do it, or like in the speed we want them, I think sometimes we just like we can feel like
One, like the
not
research
gonna help
out there,
you.
right? The research out there for all us therapist friends is it doesn't matter necessarily what modality you use
6 sessions,
or what what intervention you're using. It's really the rapport that person builds with their therapist. And so, especially when you ask, have I ever experienced it? I think I have, and I still wrestle with it. I have a great supervisor, Brad, who loves to just call it out, call me on the carpet at times. But I'm starting to be able to have the awareness of realizing, like, okay, your empathy is decreasing when I feel myself join in the adversarial role. When it changes from therapy to a ping pong match, we're no longer the empathy has left the building.
Yeah.
And so, by trying to be aware of the second it goes that way, that way I can control it. Because at first it doesn't start off with, oh, I want to control the session.
No.
It's more of all of a sudden it's like, well, you could do that, you could do that, you could do that, you could do that. And once it becomes, IKEA instructions, it's no longer therapy. And so by not joining in an adversarial role, I'm also not reinforcing all of the traumas and experiences they've already felt. Remember, you don't necessarily come to therapy for someone to tell you to do something. Most people, or I would say there's a good group that do, though, that show up and they're like, well, tell me what to do.
Give me your
so I
ask me.
Like, believe it or not, we don't have a cheat code book for life. No. We don't flip it through and be like, oh,
this is what you
parent problems. So if you do this, it'll all go away. The only way that happens is you move away. But anyways, skipping over. Anyways, it's really about, again, this information at the core. Here's the big secret. When you walk into therapy, you have a lot of these answers inside. The therapist is going to walk alongside of you as you actually start taking in the landscape of your own life.
Right. And to unlock all these, like, I know we give them gems of information too, but like they have it within them.
Oh yeah.
Right. They just don't know where to access it. Something's been blocking them for all these years.
Or to trust themselves.
Yes.
It's amazing. The client has the compass, but a lot of times they don't. They've been told north is south and south is north, and sometimes it's just like, no, how about why don't we take an adventure? See where it comes.
Yeah. And sometimes, like, when I have clients that, like, even just in the first session, or before even meeting them, I'm already like, okay, I feel like, or just talking to them on the phone, like, just to set up the session, I can already feel very challenged by them. And I have to just kind of remind myself that, you know what, like, they are in pain. And no matter how challenging or how forceful or how,
This is how they've learned to deal with that pain and get their needs met and survive in whatever system that they grew up in.
Right. And picturing how they must be with other people, I just don't ever want to be another person that reinforces that negative framework that they already have about themselves, about society and relationships. And so that's, like, really challenging. Yeah. Like, how forceful you are with me is probably how forceful you are with other people. And so how do I find it within myself to, like, find you lovable, to love you regardless? Because at least, like, bravo to you for coming in. Because you know something's not working for you. Yeah. Whether you want to say that out loud or not, or, like, admit it to yourself, but you called us for a reason. And so that, I think, is at least, like, a nugget of, like, that's lovable about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're here.
And it's, sometimes it comes down to, again, just your clients being consistent.
Yes.
Like your quote-unquote most frustrating client. Maybe the client that never misses a session. Is
always on time.
Always on time. Will also do homework if you assign it.
Yes, or loves homework.
Or, you know what? You have to admire the courage of literally, in some cases, for some people, it is like stepping into a ring every week. Because they're really wrestling and dealing with some real life stressors. But you know what? Sure, maybe it's not leaps and bounds. Maybe it's not even baby steps. But they're going centimeter by centimeter. You cannot turn away just the admiration for, I will continue to fight for finding out who I am. That takes courage.
Yeah.
Now, we did have an awesome question from good old AJ.
Hi, fiance.
Her fiance, and always the best follower we've ever had.
Sometimes our only follower.
Yeah, sometimes. But he had a great question that I think I'd love to bounce off of all of us. How do you keep from bringing that frustration with the client home with you?
He's not saying this because I've ever done that.
Sure.
Brave man. Brave man.
I get checked on that all the time by him. But
Okay.
good question, AJ.
Oh, wow.
Ashley, sweetie.
I'm feeling a lack of empathy. I don't know, like, empty much? Like,
Just a little. Just kidding. But yeah, how would you,
The
for both of you,
parallels.
actually?
How do I keep from bringing it home?
Mm-hmm.
Truthfully, sometimes I don't. I think, what am I, 3 years into being an associate, but I had clinical experience prior to that. But it took me, I think, until this 3rd year to not take the majority of what I experience or what I hear, what I listen to in the room. But I think the things that I do bring home with me, I bring home for a reason, and it's not about the client.
there you go.
There's a reason, deeper, and it's a reason I should talk to my therapist about.
That's your own personal work.
Yeah,
It's my own work. There,
guilty.
if I bring it home, it wasn't even about the client. It's because there's something in me that I need to attune to and pay attention to.
I would
That's,
totally
think,
agree.
my answer.
I agree with that in the way of, it's amazing when you can sit across from a client, and again, I still know that I'm a competent therapist, but I can have that little kid inside of me scream out for certain reasons.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Because the beauty of being a therapist, and something I would love to get across to more people that I encounter who are fellow colleagues, is that as a therapist, we are not supposed to turn off our emotional selves. That's not the part of therapy. As a therapist, I know whether or not I'm using certain tools for the client's benefit or for my own. If it's for my own, it's not supposed to be in their session. It's supposed to be in my session.
Sure.
But you cannot just turn off, the pastel colors of your emotions and then still be experienced by your client as having emotional understanding. That's not how that works. You don't go from a colored screen to black and white and get the same resolution or quality. And so those are the times where, I'm thinking about on my drive home. Because maybe I was triggered by something that my client brought. And that is okay. That doesn't make me a bad therapy.
That's human.
A bad therapist. That's not it. But a lot of people fight that, right? Well, I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't do that.
Or when you're young and starting out in a trainee or a new associate, like, we learn about countertransference.
Right.
And you're
So
like, well, I
bad.
can't do that.
Right.
Like, it's just glossing over.
Yeah.
You're human and you're fallible and you have feelings and thoughts too. And a lot of therapists have their own therapists.
Right.
So what
Which
are
is
they
highly
going
recommended.
Yeah.
And countertransference happens every day you're a therapist.
Oh, yeah.
The only time it's wrong is when you handle it incorrectly, right?
Right.
Again, that's when, if you're making it more about you than it is
Yes.
about them, that's a problem. But
That's
just
where it
because
becomes,
you feel something doesn't mean that you're a bad person to it.
Right.
The other thing, and if I'm going to quote something. There's a really, really great show called Grey's Anatomy, I think is what it came from. But there's this quote stuck with me. Is like, the bad news is that you never get used to it, but the good news is that you never get used to it.
Isn't
And
that the truth?
that just, means you're human, because who wants to get used to some of the things that we've been
Right.
told? But, you continue to show up and you continue to do this work and you continue to be present for people, and that is also a gift in and of itself. So it's the balance.
Yeah.
It's funny, you say that, and I have a response to it, like normal. I talk too much. But it's if you know me, I'm always searching out like mentors or people who've been in the field longer than me. I want to know more information. And with what you said, I'll never forget. I had asked someone, "Hey, can we go get coffee? I'd love to talk to you." I knew this person had been in the field for 30 years, right?
Wow.
And you're like, "Holy crap! All right, I want to know some information." I'll never forget this person told me. I said, "Well, so like what are you still learning in the field?" And this person was like, "I've been in the field for 30 years. Nothing's new." And I remember at that moment, like being like, "Huh,
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I just wasted money on your coffee. Just kidding. But it was like,
Really
that's the truth. If at any time in therapy you think as a therapist you've learned everything or you know every personality type, check yourself. Immediately call your therapist, cancel all your other appointments for the day, check in, because that's the thing. We're always going to be learning. We're always going to be experiencing more. And we're always going to have the ability to grow more empathy for others, right?
And I think the healthier we get as therapists, the better we're able to manage our reactivity to clients that trigger us or that we have countertransference with. I know the reason why AJ is asking that question. I think that with me, I bring home a lot of couple counseling stuff.
That's hard,
because whatever it is, and then whatever it is that they're talking about in session, then I go home. He's usually the first person I talk to when I'm like driving home after a session, and I start like challenging him all these random questions that he's like never.
Is this me?
Yeah, it's me. Every time, like
no,
I just want it to be us.
The therapy toolbox for couples, and I was like, my mind was going off about, well, I need to ask all these questions.
Yeah, me
this
too.
Is like, am I stonewalling? Am I defensive? I literally asked.
For all of our spouses and fiancés, it's hysterical because after a training, it's hell for them. So would you think I'm a pit bull or a cobra?
Like, the only one.
And they're like,
what are you talking about?
Like, just answer the question.
And like all my fears of like past failed relationships will come up too sometimes, especially when you're dealing with couples that are in conflict. Then it's just like, okay, but like, let's not do this, or are you going to do this, or like, is this going to be us? And I think that we should do a podcast on all of our significant others. What's it like to date a therapist? Like, what's it like?
Yeah, it'd have to be 2 hours at least. No.
Because like, I can't imagine it being that easy. I mean, I can speak for myself. I don't know about you guys. I cannot imagine it being that easy being with a therapist.
No, there's a particular therapist voice that I'm told that you're using your therapist voice. Sorry.
So what's amazing, my wife proofread every paper I ever submitted, and so it's hysterical because she pretty much got her master's with me at the same time, and so I'll start saying something and she's like, Gottman, and you're like, oh God, like she'll just call it out, or
she's so awesome.
I never break out in more of a sweat when I come home and she's got like she's got a book open, and you're like, what are you going through the Corey text for? Like no reason at all. You're like, oh, son of a gun. But no, it would be great to have that. I would love to have that podcast. I think we have like gone through. Freddie, what's the time we're at?
We're at 44 minutes.
44 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So we'll start wrapping up.
Yes. Actually, what are some like last pieces of information or nuggets of whatever that you want to share with whomever?
I think for the therapists who find themselves irritated or frustrated with clients,
So we have a dog eating a milk bone right now. That's Diesel's takeaway of the evening is milk bones get her through her processing.
She's a beautiful dog.
She's almost done. She's done now. Go ahead. Back to how do you have empathy for dogs? I'm sorry.
I guess I would want to tell you that it's normal and that it's okay to get frustrated and get irritated with your clients, but I would encourage you to figure out the reason and the themes and to acknowledge that countertransference doesn't need to necessarily be a bad thing or a negative thing. It's an opportunity for you to become a better therapist, for you to learn more about yourself, for you to heal, because those wounds, if they're still being activated, still carry hurt and pain for you. And so it's an opportunity for you to be a more healing presence for somebody else who needs it. I think what I take away from the clients that I have lost because of my lack of empathy is that person literally came to me asking for help. And I don't really know if it's a pretty shitty feeling when I look back on it, to be like, they asked me for help and I didn't get it. I couldn't get it. I couldn't give it to them. And I have empathy for myself that I was not at that place in my own personal therapy. To be able to acknowledge what they were trying to express, and maybe neither were they. But to also realize that just because there's a particular client that grinds your gears or that you don't connect with does not mean that there isn't work to be done and that they can't be. And if you're in a position where you can't refer those clients and you're stuck with them or they're on your caseload, you can find the lovable. You can find something lovable, even if it takes a lot of effort to do it, and it will make you a better clinician. It won't be wasted.
Exactly.
Is I think what I would say.
Yeah.
Well said.
That sometimes the greatest client-centered advocacy you have is making yourself a better person.
It's growth. I think those might be the clients. Ain't no joy in the easy ride. So those are the clients that make you into a better clinician, a better therapist. Those are the clients that challenge you, that cause you frustration and pain and make you question whether or not you know something or your talents or your skills. And I think in that struggle is where you actually gain strength and you stumble strong.
There you go. Wow. You're dropping it.
You're so
Very
cute.
good.
And you learn how to session well.
There you go.
This is why we love having her.
Man, she's going to be back again. Next week, Ashley and us will be taking care of...
Ever.
So stupid.
It's good stuff.
But kind of going back to ending with what you said in the very beginning, I think you said that we oftentimes tell our clients all the time to talk about things that they don't want to talk about and to progress and to challenge themselves. And it's if we're not doing that, then how can we advocate for that? Yeah. So I think it's just all on both sides of it, no matter which side that you're sitting on. Life is just full of progression, and we don't want to be stagnant, and it sucks sometimes, and it's freaking hard. But I think it makes us all better. And
then there's those times that you're also not the best tool in the toolbox.
Yeah.
And so you refer. And it's not, it doesn't make you a bad therapist to refer.
No.
In fact, I would say probably as I'm closing in on my 3,000 hours, I actually, the one thing I'm really proud of myself on is that I've reached the point where I know what type of client I'm good with and what type of client I'm bad with. Now, realize I also do my own personal therapy to handle the things that fire me up. But at the same time, there's because of traumas in our own lives and because of the ways we've experienced certain events, there are going to be certain people that I am not the best for you. And that is not a nick on how good I am as a therapist.
Agreed.
It goes back to ice cream. We all have different flavors, right?
I just listened to that one.
Yeah, thank you. No, it is because you know what? I'm Rocky Road all the way through, and
pistachio.
Yeah.
I'm green tea.
There you go. And so guess what? There are some. Yeah, that was pretty. Never mind.
Pretty typical.
But no, it is that sometimes it's I'm not going to be the therapist you want. But you know what? I know some great therapists that will be good for you, and that will be better than you duking it out with me. And that's what it's going to be. And that sometimes the biggest empathy we can have for our clients sometimes is realizing that we're not the right fit.
Right.
So, thank you so much for being here. This was a blast. We went way over our 30 minutes.
Like usual.
I
know.
New Year.
I know.
A new year. We're going to get this right. Anyways, thank you guys. If you were watching, I saw a lot of you on here, and I appreciate that. AJ, also, you are our point man with all the comments. If you are listening to us on your drive-in, like I know many of you are, thank you again for following up with us and also staying on. We really appreciate it. We appreciate the comments. We had a few comments over the winter break, and it was cool to see people looking around for the new year and new segments. So we've got a lot lined up. Obviously, Ashley's going to return because she's awesome. and we'll go from there if she wants to. And so,
And if there's anything that
If
you
you had
guys
me.
want, of course, to hear about, or you want a certain therapist to return, or anything like that, feel free to shout out to us, and we will make that happen.
please. So we're on Facebook. You've got the YouTube channel. Leave comments. You let us know, and we'll go from there. Have a great evening, or have a great day. And you know, session well and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.